There's a reason why Spider-Man No Way Home is making and breaking box office records. And that reason is it is a great movie. Whether you have watched it or are still waiting for a chance to get a ticket, let me tell you my thoughts about the movie without any spoilers. Hello, Namaskar, welcome, Swagatam. Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel Multiverse has been unparalleled in its legacy of Marvel superhero movies and shows, in the sense that no one ever imagined such a diverse, interconnected and long-running franchise to even exist, much less succeed beyond all measures of movie-making success. When we have had movies like Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, even with the exceptionally and irrationally high expectations that we now have from the MCU stands tall and amazes more often than not. So, in today's episode of Tinsel Talk, we talk about the latest addition in the upper echelon of MCU roster, Spider-Man No Way Home. Without spoilers, for the sake of those who are still waiting to be a part of the ride that is Spider-Man No Way Home. There's no doubt, no two ways around it, this movie is amazing. So much so that I can already let you know that I am giving this a 9 thumbs up score out of 10. But the rating is just a small part of the picture as you know. First of all, this movie will affect a casual moviegoer differently than, say, a person who is a fan of Spider-Man and someone who has been following the MCU for any number of years. There are cameos, references and a great abundance of links that highlight the fact that Spider-Man No Way Home is an ongoing story with chapters in the previous movies and certainly more branches to come, as can only be expected in a shared universe. For the casual moviegoer, there will be some confusing moments. Quite often actually, like why suddenly the crowd in the theater is cheering loudly and going berserk at someone's appearance, even if that someone is going to be on screen only for a minute or so. Or why the person beside you is wiping off a tear of pure and unadulterated amazement at something seemingly trivial. But even if you miss all the references and the interconnections and you have no idea about the backgrounds of all the dozens of characters on screen, you will still enjoy. The story is still standing on its own. You laugh at the jokes and feel the growing pains of this teenager and empathize when he makes a mistake and feel sad when he is at his lowest point and cheer when he gets help from unexpected corners and overall have a great time. So let me delve a little bit deeper, fasten your seatbelts because there is a lot to talk about even without going into spoiler territory. Discussing only the overall story and reveals from the trailers. Spider-Man No Way Home picks up immediately after the ending of the previous movie, Spider-Man Far From Home. In the mid-credit scene of Far From Home, we saw J. Jonah Jameson having a field day with Mysterio's supposedly last illusion, painting Spider-Man as a murderous maniac and unmasking his identity.
That's right, folks. Spider-Man is in fact Peter Parker.
The reveal of Peter Parker's secret identity had the expected outcome. His world goes topsy-turvy and the people in his life suddenly get media attention and so many negative consequences of being an accomplice of Spider-Man.
But this isn't about me. This is hurting a lot of people.
Now, when he has had enough, Peter seeks Doctor Strange's help in trying to reverse the damage by casting a spell to make everyone forget Spider-Man's true identity.
When Mysterio revealed my identity, my entire life got screwed up. I was wondering if maybe you could make it so that he never did.
The spell goes wrong and a gateway from another dimension is opened up, giving us a one-of-a-time crossover that we fans and viewers didn't even know that we wanted. This multiversal crossover is the core attraction of this story. So there is no MCU Spider-Man supervillain in this story, like the Vulture in Homecoming or Mysterio in Far From Home. In that way, this is an entirely different story than the previous Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Spider-Man is one of the most beloved comic book superheroes. standing right beside the OG superheroes Superman and Batman. And so, his story has been told and retold over all kinds of media. In the mainstream Hollywood live-action movie, Spider-Man was brought to life by Sam Raimi in 2001 with a memorable trilogy. After that, Spider-Man was rebooted as The Amazing Spider-Man, which was sadly so bad a decision that they couldn't even complete the trilogy. But both these separate stories found their way into the MCU Spider-Man's story. And man, it was glorious to watch the OG Green Goblin and Doc Ock on the big screen once again with Spider-Man. As the multiversal portals bring up these visitors and others like the Lizard, Sandman, Electro, etc., it is Spider-Man's mission to send them back to their own home universes, but with compassion. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange is more concerned about the fabric of time and space and more concerned than the human element of it. Spider-Man gets in the way of Doctor Strange, who was trying to send the people back to a certain and grim fate.
They all die fighting Spider-Man. It's their fate.
Spider-Man and his amazing friends Ned and MJ track down Green Goblin, Doc Ock, the Lizard, Sandman and Electro, one shy of the Sinister Six, to give them a second chance with the help of Aunt May and Happy. But all hell breaks loose when these five get back to their villainous ways. That brings me to another thought. If Mark Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man had gotten a third film, we would have gotten another villain, and then in turn we could have completed the Sinister Six in this movie. But that is just a random thought. If the studio wanted 6 villains to complete a Sinister Six, they could have brought Rhino along for the ride. Or Harry Osborn. They have had 2 of them. Moving on. The clash between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange is one of the greatest sequences in the movie. In fact, more visually appealing than the final climactic battle. A real visual treat of the mirror dimension where Doctor Strange is forced to fight a teenager, and a brilliant one at that. I mean, who would have thought that someone would say to Doctor Strange, you know what's more powerful than magic? Math! So there it is, the brilliant Peter Parker going toe-to-toe against the magic and might of Doctor Strange. But even with Doctor Strange out of the picture, the road ahead was not easy for Peter. Trying to help 5 powered individuals who don't want help and actively are trying to hurt him. It's another regular day for Spider-Man, but it is really well executed theme in the movie. Here, Peter needs help, and not only from his school friends Ned and his girlfriend MJ, but from his more powered friends. The kind of help that would remind you of the moment when Sam Wilson said, "on your left," and then arrived with armies to help Captain America in Avengers Endgame.
On your left.
With this kind of unexpected but much appreciated help, Peter gets back on his feet and goes ahead to do what he does best. A CGI battle ensues, and finally Peter Parker conquers his demons, fights multiple supervillains, and ultimately makes a sacrifice which puts the worlds back as they were for everyone except for himself. I am amazed how deeply layered this movie is. It touches so many aspects of growth of Peter Parker as a character and Spider-Man as a hero that, wow! Ever since Spider-Man was introduced in the MCU, Tony Stark's influence on Spider-Man and the use of Stark tech in all things was evidently overused. This time around, however, Peter is growing out of Tony Stark's shadow and for the first time actually leaving his childhood behind in the process. Even though he has his Iron Spider suit for a part of the movie, he has no satellite uplink, so no Edith, no Karen, no facial recognition, no guided maps, and no artificial intelligence, making things too easy for Spider-Man. It may be due to a lack of choice, but he does eventually outgrow Stark tech completely by the time this movie is done. And he truly becomes the one and only, the amazing, the spectacular Spider-Man. Tom Holland has given yet another stellar performance without question. His acting and the way this story is told makes sure that we know and understand that Peter is just a teenager, and then he grows up through the pain of his experiences and his losses. And he learns finally that with great power comes great responsibility. With all the world-altering adventure going on, I was pleasantly surprised to see MJ, played by Zendaya, giving an exceptional performance.
Now that everybody knows, you don't really have to hide or lie to people.
Stop, come on.
Yes, my Spider-Lord.
Spider-Man's partner in crime and Peter Parker's girlfriend MJ catches our attention in this star-studded affair enough to feel heartbroken at her loss and yearn for some reconciliation by the end. Well, now, I do have a few gripes with this movie. Near perfect as it was, I do think there were some minor things that made the movie experience less than 100% absolute perfection for me. The first one is a major spoiler, so I'll vaguely point out that during the final fight sequence, the climax of the movie, there is an exchange among three people regarding teamwork. It is supposed to be a light-hearted moment in between the physically and emotionally heavy combat. And it also has an MCU reference about the Avengers, but it was totally misplaced and at least poorly executed. That comedy didn't land during the epic fight at all, and it took me out of the moment. Even before the climactic battle started, there was some weak acting in the dialogue in this team. And that's probably my high expectations, but I'm saying what I think. Those of you who have already watched the movie, do let me know how you felt about the interaction between these three people. Moving on, the second gripe I'd say is how they showed Aunt May's character. In the past two movies, Marisa Tomei's Aunt May was a casual, cheerful, supportive, and overall a nice lady. She did some charity work also.
It's a good thing that I packed your suit, huh? I can't believe you forgot it.
Happy's there.
Yeah, it's Happy. He's here. He came by to volunteer.
But even after watching Homecoming and Far From Home so many times, I never felt as though Aunt May was anything other than a normal good lady. Now, compare it with Aunt May of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or the Aunt May from the comics. She is the epitome of kindness and compassion, one who would go out of their way to help someone in need from their heart.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength.
In No Way Home, Aunt May has suddenly shown us this aspect of her character. The exceptionally kind and compassionate woman who does charity work for not just for the sake of charity, but really believes in doing good and helping people. This really was an important driving force behind Peter Parker's decisions and actions in the movie, and it all makes sense, but it feels like a retcon. Director John Watts could have worked a little more on Aunt May's character to make it feel like she was the person her words made her appear. Again, a small gripe and a personal opinion only. J. Jonah Jameson was wasted in this movie in my opinion. I didn't laugh at his reporting, nor did I find it any amusing or interesting. Even though J.K. Simmons' acting was on point, the role he was given didn't do his character any justice. His character's only real utility, so to speak, was just to confirm towards the end of the movie that Spider-Man's ultimate sacrifice actually worked. Another minor gripe with this movie that I have is with its score. Michael Giacchino composed the score for the previous two Spider-Man movies as well as for Doctor Strange. And I must say, the best of his work among the MCU movies has been on Spider-Man Far From Home. Do you remember the goosebumps-inducing main theme of the original Spider-Man movie scored by Danny Elfman? There is literally no other comic book movie score that can reach that level of epicness. Not to set the bar too high, No Way Home's score felt like it was confused between too many themes. Doc Ock theme, Spider-Man, Sandman theme, Goblin theme, Doctor Strange theme, and obviously MCU Spider-Man's own theme. I expected a more epic soundtrack in this movie. Anyway, enough with the minor negatives of this movie. Among the villains, Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin was even more unbalanced and menacing than he was in the original Spider-Man. And more than that, the physical close-up one-to-one combat between him and Spider-Man were brutal. The Green Goblin shone brighter among the five villains. And the second place is obviously Alfred Molina's, playing Dr. Octopus.
You're not Peter Parker.
His appearance and especially his hair is so different than what we saw in the original Spider-Man 2, but acting-wise he is superb. He did lend a hand, or a tentacle so to speak, during the final climactic fight, which made for a great cinematic moment and made clear the true north of his moral compass. Electro also had a significant role to play in the narrative. Jamie Foxx did play his part well, but it felt like he was playing his regular negative role and not an MCU supervillain type of role. The other two, Sandman and Lizard, well, they were just there to fill out the roster. They could have been any villain. Not that it's a negative, it's not possible nor expected to keep 5 villains in equal focus in a movie bursting through the seams with characters and story. I would say these 5 villainous multiversal travelers were treated cleverly and optimally. And everything starting from the story, the acting, the visual imagery, and especially the nostalgia and the fan service was treated with utmost care. Whether Tom Holland would return as Spider-Man or not, whether we'd ever again get a multiversal mashup or not, those questions won't matter. And the only thought when you are coming out of the movie theater after watching Spider-Man No Way Home in your mind will be, when am I watching it again? As far as the mid-credit scene is concerned, that was comedy, another crossover type tease. But the real gem was the end credit scene. Actually, there are no spoilers here. The end credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home is the same as the teaser for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and that is out there on the internet right now. It made perfect sense, and the final appearance of evil Doctor Strange was another surprise which I didn't even know I wanted to see, and now that I have seen it, I can't wait to watch that movie.
Things just got out of hand.
So, well, Spider-Man No Way Home deserves 9 thumbs ups out of 10, an amazing movie to end the year with. Do let me know your thoughts on the movie and your rating for it as well. Best wishes for the upcoming new year. Don't forget to keep COVID related precautions while you enjoy your year-end bash. Stay well, stay protected and stay healthy. This is all from my side for today. Until my next video, I'll be eagerly looking forward to your feedback and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the Versatile Doctor and click this bell icon. This is Dr. Abhinav Atul signing off. It is my pride and privilege to be able to connect with you through this video. Namaskar. While you're still on YouTube, how about you check out this video which YouTube thinks you would like. And right here in this playlist link, you will find all my Tinsel Talk videos.